delighted to be here today and to see so many of you that are interested in a PhD degree. It's just having an academic career is such a rewarding experience, and it's a long journey. I know it seems like, because you have to invest 5 years just to get that PhD degree. But it is very rewarding in the end, and I share KR's excitement about one of the great things about having an academic career is this wonderful feeling of the excitement of discovery, of finding out something that's new, that no one else knows. For me, there's that wonderful moment when I look at my data output and I try to make sense of patterns of responses that people have given to various questionnaire items. That might sound very dry, but in fact it's very thrilling because it's insight into people. Now, people is what marketing is all about. What is marketing? So I represent the marketing department here. Marketing is that interface between the organization and the customers. So we're very interested in customers, very interested in markets and how they operate. In marketing, there are 3 major areas. One of them is a modeling area that focuses primarily on quantitative modeling or economic models of the marketplace. So if we look at markets, how do they buy, why do they buy, or if we look at large databases of people who, for example, view ads, what leads them to zap ads and to move through ads quickly? What makes them stop and look at ads? So those are all questions that can be examined by looking at patterns of behavior and analyzing them mathematically. There's another area of marketing, and this is called strategy. Strategy because it focuses more on managers' decisions, when managers have to figure out how am I going to relate to my customers. A lot of this has to do with business-to-business customers, which is a really important part of marketing. Channels of distribution. How can I distribute my channels? How can I get it to customers? And they're really interesting and important questions that relate then to strategy. And the third area, which is the area that I happen to be have my expertise in, is buyer behavior or consumer behavior. And this particular area draws more on behavioral sciences. My own background is really in psychology, which is very helpful for understanding how people think about purchase decisions. Why do they purchase one product versus another? How do their attitudes change? How do they react to advertising, to packaging? What do they do? So these are all questions about marketing. Now, those are the 3 areas in marketing, and if you look across the U.S. at various PhD programs, they'll vary in the degree to which they emphasize one particular approach or the other. In general, marketing looks at, there's the famous what are called the 4 Ps, the product. So how does the product affect what people do, how people buy, how can we redesign the product? How much does the packaging influence how much people use, for example, of the product? There's promotion, which includes both coupons, rebates, advertising, all those ways that we try to describe our product, as well as pricing, another important and fundamental area. And finally, place or distribution, that is, how does the place that the product is offered influence how people buy? Now, KR mentioned a number of really interesting marketing issues when he talked about kind of topics that people would investigate if they're in marketing. And you might wonder, well, where can I find out about research that's been done about this? And KR identified some that you ought to go look at journals. In marketing, you would go look at the Journal of Marketing, the Journal of Marketing Research, the Journal of Consumer Research. These would be some journals that you can look at. And I just have to warn you, when you look at that, you might think, well, wait a minute. I heard about all these interesting problems, and I'm looking at these articles, and they could put me to sleep at night, right? They're a cure for insomnia. But I have to warn you, so academic articles are really, it's technical writing. And it's quite dry. So one of the things you learn as you go through a PhD program is you learn to write in a technical way because you're writing primarily for other academics who are looking for that kind of writing. They're looking for conciseness. So it's not the kind of exciting writing that you might think. And that's part of that, what might be called the socialization process, when you learn how to be an academic, is learn how to write in that way, but also how to pull out what's interesting from an academic article and what really builds to knowledge. Now, of course, the excitement of discovery is one of the fundamental, really, fulfillments about being an academic, but it's also very fulfilling to disseminate research, that is to tell other people about what you have learned. And you can communicate that, of course, through academic articles, but you also communicate it through the media. So we often have opportunities to talk to the mass media and to convey our information in less arcane and jargonish ways than through an academic article, but also to our students. And that's another real fulfillment of having an academic career. Now, as KR mentioned, do you have to have a background in marketing, or do you have to have business experience in marketing to get a marketing PhD? And the answer is no. So there are these basic fundamental disciplines that are very important to marketing, which include psychology and economics, sociology and anthropology. All of those help because they all provide methodological tools or training and tools and theory that will help you succeed in marketing. So you should not worry about the absence of marketing business experience or the absence of marketing coursework as being a major block for your being a candidate for a program in marketing. So these are just some general background about marketing. I know we have others who need to talk about their own area, so I will turn it over to them.
Hello everyone, my name is Pierre Thiss. I'm an assistant professor of strategy in the management and organizations department. I'm probably the most junior person of the folks here, so I've been like 7 years removed from having my PhD. Management and organizations. Well, I know I don't have much time, so I'll try to keep it short. Sort of 3 areas. We look at OB, that's more the micro people, psychologists. They study things like negotiations, decision making, those kind of things, organization theory, kind of in between. I'm in strategy, which looks at all sorts of things around competitive advantage. I've looked at the diffusion of golden parachutes. There's some fun stuff too that people do, like we've seen lately a whole bunch of studies that look at the wine industry, one of the more pleasant industries to study, I guess. And also there was a fun paper that looked at why the microbreweries, why do we see so many microbreweries? Because people predicted in that industry that big players, Miller, Coors, and so forth, will essentially dominate the market. And then you see the emergence of now there's more breweries, microbreweries in the US than there's in Germany. I care about that because I'm German. And Germany used to have lots and lots and lots of breweries per head. It was pretty incredible. Now the US has more microbreweries than Germany. Why is that? How did that industry change? How did it come to be as it is? That's the kind of stuff you might also be interested in strategy. It's I was going to talk more about some of the research issues. Kara did, I think, a very nice job laying out what some of the details of the PhD program are and what it means to be a faculty member. As I was preparing for this, I was thinking, what are some of the things that you might relate to? And so, in terms of my background, I'm German. I grew up in Germany. I finished my high school kind of stuff, then worked for a couple of years, then I got a master's in sociology, so I was trained as a sociologist first, then got my PhD jointly in sociology and management at Northwestern University. So that's the Kellogg School, they moved back there too, although my loyalty is, of course, with USC, as you can probably imagine. So, first I worked at Queen's University in Canada for about 3 years. Now this is my 4th year here at USC, again in strategy. Some of the things, what might make a good PhD student, and how do you know you're a good candidate, so to speak? Let me reinforce some of the things that Kea said earlier. Curiosity about the field of study, being passionate about sort of what it is that you want to look at, I think is indispensable. It will be very hard to maintain any sort of career or even interest in your dissertation beyond sort of your PhD if you don't have some kind of passion. Because even your dissertation, most people think, oh, you do that thing, you're done with it, you hand it in. know, this thing will probably be with you for a whole number of years, even after you finish your PhD program, because you're going to try to publish work out of it. This had better be something that you really care about at some level. In sociology, they used to say, you know, in doubt, choose either something related to money or sex. It doesn't work in business, I'm afraid. So you have to choose something, but that's lots of stuff out there. And that's, I think, one of the aspects that's really exciting. You can do something that you really are interested in. You have a lot of self-determination. We know that self-determination is one of the best predictors of being happy with your job. So curiosity, persistence, caring about research. But in other ways, well, one of the things I think that is very important to know about this career is it's in many ways a great career. I'll get to that in a second, but it's work that doesn't stop, meaning your work is never finished. And that's something that affects your work-life balance. We had Jeffrey Immelt here give a talk, and he kind of, I think, put it very nicely when he said, you know, when I go home at the end of the day, it's not because my work is done. It's because I'm tired, because I want to spend time with my family, because, you know, I've become inefficient at this point. But it's not because I've finished. And with academia, in many ways, it's exactly the same. That is, you have always another article to read, always another paper to write, another company to visit, to talk to the managers. You have always something still that could be done. But you got to find some kind of balance between that and the other life that you will hopefully have beyond academia. So just to close, so again, I know we're running probably a little bit late, so a few things, sort of, why do you want to choose this career? I think Kara said, you don't do it for the money. You know, the money's relatively good, but if you think about the PhD years that you spend and the money you get during those times, so that's quite an investment. But there are other perks that I think that are very relevant. The ability to determine your own work, to figure out what you care about, what you want to work on. Nobody's going to tell you what you should be working on. That's pretty exciting. The ability to choose which 60 to 80 hours a week you want to work. You can do it at night, you can do it during the day. I have 2 small kids that can be very handy. One of them gets sick, you can take care of them. But you realize you have to make up the odds at some other point. But you have flexibility, that's great. Teaching can be tremendously exciting. It's not always, sometimes you walk out of classes and it's frustrating because you feel, it didn't work, you didn't connect with the students. But those classes, when it really works, are a real blast. And I think, they're really energizing. And that gets me to the next to last point I want to make is, I think it's great in many ways to be at universities because they're places of promise. People go there because they're trying to prepare for a better future, for going forward with their lives, for achieving something. And you remain in touch with that, and also with people that are sort of, at a fairly constant age. I mean, you get older as your faculty member, but students pretty much always at the same age. So it's kind of funny in that regard, but you kind of stay in touch with, I think, young people. So I find it a great job, and but that's not to say I'm pitching to all of you that should do it. That's probably not the case. But if you do care about it, I think it's a great career to explore. So.
So I have to introduce one of our doctoral students in marketing, and this is Leanne Novak, who's going to give you a different kind of perspective of what it's like to be in a PhD program. Leanne?
Hi, I'm a 4th year PhD student here, so we are here for a long time, but it really does fly by. The academic part is really intensive. You are doing a lot of research. At USC, though, you find someone to work with. You have an RA shift, at least in the marketing department. You TA a class. I TA the marketing MBA class to get a feel for teaching, and then you're required to teach 1 load. Which is nice. Some schools can require more, but it's nice to have the experience. So why I chose USC, there was a lot of faculty members in the marketing department to work with that were still publishing. I knew that I wanted to come into the consumer behavior area in marketing, and I didn't know exactly what topic to focus on. So I knew that looking at the broad areas of interest among the faculty, that I could find someone to work with, and I did. It's turned out quite nice, and I'm working on my beginning stages of my dissertation now. You do work at your own pace. No one's going to tell you what to do, when to do it, when it's due, things like that. So you have to be pretty motivated and stay on top of yourself. Here at USC, we do have a behavioral lab for the type of research that I do, which is interesting. So if you're looking to work with subjects and students, find out how the school allocates subjects, whether you have to go out and get them, whether you have to go to public areas, whether there's a program within the school, things like that. You are able to explore whatever topic you choose. So your first 2 years, you get exposed to a lot of material, a lot of really good research. And then you can kind of find your area and guide yourself towards that. At USC, we could take courses in whatever we wanted to. So anything from psychology, linguistics, communications, all of these different areas, whatever will help to further your research plan, so you can kind of create your own course load. And then the last point was Los Angeles. It's a great place to be. So many interesting things to do, even on our PhD budget.
My name is Derek Horsfire, and I'm a fourth year in the finance department here. Since we're running late, I'll just be very brief. And this is kind of specific toward finance, so if you're not interested in finance, you can tune me out first. So finance is basically just applied statistics, economics, and mathematics. So if there's still people, or if there are people here that are still in school, I would highly stress that you take as much math and stats as possible. When we break down finance, we break it down into basically two disciplines, asset pricing, corporate finance, and then the subsets of those are theoretical and empirical. So if you're interested in theory, I would recommend that you take as much proof-based math as possible. And if you're interested in empirical, it would definitely help if you've had exposure to computer languages before, since a lot of your time is spent moving large data sets around. To the point of the lifestyle, it's obviously not a glamorous lifestyle. So, but as KR said, you're basically committing 5 years of your life, and then with a really high expectation of pay in the future. And lastly, I guess you really have to enjoy reading. So for the first 3 years of the PhD program, you're going to be reading continuously. And you'll think you've come across a breakthrough, but then you'll learn that this has already been done 5 years ago, and it's really, it's you know, it gets you at some point in time. So definitely love reading. And if you have any other specific questions about the research that's being done in finance, I'll be around, so just ask me.
Looks like we don't have time for general Q&A, but we're all going to be around, and you can be free to ask us any questions you want. Once again, thank you very much for coming, and we look forward to interacting with you.